Hey everybody, welcome. I'm Natalie and this is Scientology Life After a Cult. Welcome everybody on this Aloha Friday. Thank you for being here. Today in our Culty recap, we are going to be talking about some Scientology escape stories, as well as, can you spot a cult? Could you? Would you know? Could you be in a cult right now and not know? We're going to look at some very key questions to help us know, is it a cult or not? Also, at the end, stay tuned because I've been telling you guys on Aloha Friday, I wanted to share a little bit more of my family and culture and time in Hawaii. I've got some footage I grabbed that I'm going to share with you guys on Aloha Friday about that. So stick around to the end for that. Welcome everybody in the live chat. Thank you moderators for being here, bringing the Aloha. Welcome, members. Hey, no one, and everybody else who's here in the live chat. I'm so glad you're all here. Let's keep it fun. Let's share that aloha with each other, and let's get to some serious culty news. We're going to kick it off with many of you might even know. In fact, before I share this story, do you guys know who got Tom Cruise into Scientology? And if you do you recall her name? Throw it in the chat. If you are on the replay, jump in those comments again, because we are going to be talking about the woman who got Tom Cruise into Scientology and what she's doing today. Seeing if any of you know that name. Yep, just Julia. You got part of it. No one. I know you would know no one. Anna, yes. Yes. We really haven't talked about Mimi Rogers much. And she was Tom Cruise's first wife, of course, who got him into Scientology. Well, the Daily Mail has an article about this former Scientologist because she did leave Scientology. My favorite thing that I have seen Mimi Rogers in was, wasn't she in Austin Powers? Was it the first one or the second one or the third one? But Mimi Rogers was in Austin Powers. I do remember that. And I do believe currently she's working on a show called Bosch, which I'm not that familiar with because I have not watched it. But let's kind of go through quickly and just take a look at what this article had to say. Tom Cruise's ex-wife, you've probably never heard of. Well, we have heard of her. I've heard of her. Bosch star Mimi Rogers introduced actor to Scientology and made startling claim about their sex life. Now she loves going to county fairs and selling cameo videos. So here's what I found interesting about this. It goes into the history of all that. So Tom, now 62, quietly married Florida-born actress Mimi Rogers during his rise to fame as a leading man in Top Gun with only 2 people in attendance as they said their vows. So today, Mimi Rogers is 68. Interesting thing about that is I thought the age gap was a lot more of a spread. But if he's 62 and she's 68, even I can do that math. That's like 6 years. That's not that big of a difference. I don't know why I thought it was so much more. But what is she up to now? While Tom Cruise's stars continue to rise, Mimi's pursued more unlikely ventures. She's competed in county fairs with her homegrown hay. She does cameo videos. She's doing Bosch. She's done a multitude of things actually since she was married to Tom Cruise. And it just looks like girl is living her best life. And let's be honest, she's out of Scientology. She's away from Tom Cruise. So I feel like I would be kind of like, really happy as well. Talks about the show she's doing, Bosch, other work that she's done. When they met, she thought he was extremely bright, and Mimi's version of events appeared different as she previously told Sun Sentinel that she and Tom had been introduced by a mutual friend. That's kind of an interesting, I would imagine, sometimes I think about like in Hollywood, with these celebrities, how do you meet people? How do you date when you're a celebrity? They do it. It doesn't seem to go well when celebrities date celebrities, but I get why they do it because you're in that same world and maybe understand, some of the shenanigans that go on. I don't know. Rusty Glider, aloha to you. Aloha, everybody who's coming in, sharing those aloha this Aloha Friday. I love it so much. The Real School, I see you. Thank you. Eric asks, good to see you. Natalie, you need to get a cameo with Mimi saying that Cult of Scientology is horrible. Oh, is horrible? Wait, can you do that? I just learned what cameo is. I was like, oh, so you can like make recorded messages and stuff. I wonder if I could do that, Eric. That actually would be funny. I would love it. I would love it. All right, so I'm going to link that article, everything that we're going to talk about today. I'm going to link it down below so you guys can read all the stuff on your own. Check out the rest of that article. There wasn't really like a ton more in it. Some really interesting older pictures of the two of them together. I forgot what a baby he looked like back then. He really had a baby face. And that he was so young. I mean, this guy has spent like 40 years or so in Hollywood. So it is interesting because it does also get into some things about their marriage. Like it's believed that during their marriage, Mimi, who was 6 years older than Cruz, a divorcee and a professional poker player, was the one who introduced him to Scientology. And that's what I've heard too. Oh, and that's the other thing. She's a professional poker player. I didn't know that. Her father was one of the original members of the cult and was close to the founder, L. Ron Hubbard, as well as being a prominent mission holder. So a mission holder in Scientology is somebody who runs a Scientology mission. It's kind of like a franchise. In an interview with the LA Times, Rogers explained that the philosophy was simply part of my upbringing and that her father, a civil engineer, had become involved with the cult before she was born. I think it was an excellent system of belief to grow up with because Scientology offers an extremely pragmatic method for taking spiritual concerns and breaking them down into everyday applications, she said. Following their split, it's believed Mimi left the religion and her father reportedly was declared a suppressive person after he too quit in the early 1980s, while Tom remains one of the most famous members of the cult. That is interesting too, that, her dad ended up getting declared. And you look, you get these people who get people into Scientology and, oh, they're so great. But then they go, whoa, wait a minute. There's some things happening here that I don't agree with. Like, what's the deal here, Scientology? And we all know what Scientology's response is. You are now declared a suppressive person. And that seems to be what happened. Which makes me wonder, like, at some point, would Tom Cruise himself go like, "Wow, like, I knew her, I loved her, I didn't see her that way." I mean, how do you marry 3 alleged suppressive people, as Tom Cruise has, and each one of them is supposedly a suppressive person? Even L. Ron Hubbard said that only 2.5% of the population are truly suppressive. Now, I'm not great at math, but with those odds and Tom Cruise marrying 3 of suppressives, I don't know, the math just does not math there. It just seems like you gotta work hard at that. Like, you gotta type. Maybe really Tom Cruise doesn't realize that his type are women who are not in Scientology and don't wanna be there. It'd be so great if he connected with somebody who actually got him out of Scientology, got him to see the light. Personally, I don't think it's ever going to happen. I don't. I really don't. I think I'd be so, so surprised if that happened. Tell me what you guys think. What do you guys think? Put a 1 in the chat if you think Tom Cruise will never leave Scientology. Because I feel that way, but I also could be wrong, just from my background and where I came from. So I want to know what you guys think. If you are on the replay, hit that like and also put a 1 in the chat if you think he will never leave Scientology. And if you have an added comment to that, I'd like to hear what so many of you think. So far, I'm seeing from Christian. Marcy says, I don't think Tom Cruise will ever leave. Arkansas Flamingo's like 11111, girl. Yep. Just Julia, Fish Mom, Sylvia, Stasia, K-Rad. I'm seeing it. Squirrel, SPTV, Anna, Selena, Cajun Mama, Mayor's Girl, Hermie, Chantel, and Diane. Ooh, Cheryl, this is a great question. So are you born an SP or do you evolve into one? Let's see if I can remember Scientology's explanation for this. As I recall from the Potential Trouble Source course, Confront and Shatter Suppression, that a suppressive person is considered to be fighting perceived enemies that exist now that existed on the whole track, as Scientology calls it. They just see evil everywhere and want to cause chaos and don't even know what they're fighting. So I'm guessing, you know what? I think it could probably go either way. In the eyes of Scientology, you could be born suppressive, But you can also become a suppressive person by not handling yourself, by not availing yourself of Scientology's technology of reprogramming. If you cannot be reprogrammed, you are a suppressive person. That's per Scientology's own belief system. If L. Ron Hubbard's technology does not go in on you, as they say in Scientology, that you cannot apply it successfully, you might be a suppressive person. I should do a video on that. You might be a suppressive person if Scientology doesn't work on you. You might be a suppressive person if you ask questions about Scientology. You might be a suppressive person if you like to spread the news that Scientology leader David Miscavige repeatedly beat multiple staff members directly under him. I'm sure you guys got a million of these. It is Aloha Friday, so we can really bring the humor today. So jump in the chat, jump in the comments, and let me know. Ooh, Magnus says, yeah, they have too much dirt on him. Yeah. Hey, Sparkling Dragon, good to see you. Oh, yeah, reprise. I like that. 1.02. It's highly unlikely Tom Cruise will leave Scientology, but never say never. I agree. Kathy Scogans, never say never. Yeah, I agree with that, but I really feel like I don't know if he's going to leave. I mean, that would be admitting a lot on his part. In my experience of people that I've spoken to, including in my own family over the years, I've noticed that sometimes, this is not the case all of the time, but sometimes people who join Scientology as an adult have a harder time, I think, leaving it in ways. Not people new who leave within the first couple of years. I'm talking like Tom Cruise, who stay in such a long time. But Tom Cruise joined Scientology as an adult. And I've known a few people who left Scientology and said they struggled with admitting it was a cult, saying it out loud, because it's admitting that they joined a cult. Although nobody knowingly joins a cult. Okay, not nobody, there have been a couple people. But you know it's a cult. You're not like, sign me up, Scientology, take my money. Just, hand me my volunteer minister's yellow jacket. Kelly says, one, why would he ever give up being treated like a god? Very true. The amount of admiration that is thrown at Tom Cruise. Scientology Sea Org members who dedicate themselves to Scientology for 1 billion years have to call Tom Cruise Mr. Cruise or sir. I'm like, dude is an actor, which is, great. Actors are great. But really, like, we're gonna put him up there, but Scientology does. They do, and that's very much used to control and manipulate their members. Just a Northern Girl says, I don't think Tom Cruise will leave, but I wonder if the possibility might increase if Lil Davy dies. Ooh, I never thought about it like that, Just a Northern Girl. You gotta wonder. You gotta wonder. Good point, sweet Elizabeth. Wasn't Kelly Copter an SP already as a child? Yes, she was declared a suppressive person at the age of 6 because her parents are psychotic. I mean, that's just crazy. But those are the kind of things that happen when you get involved with a cult. And a little later in this video, we're going to talk about the signs of a cult. Can you actually spot a cult? Do you know what to look for? You might hear these things and realize, like, oh my gosh, I almost got into a cult. I didn't even realize it. Or I was in a cult. We're going to look at that in a little bit there. Aloha to everybody's coming in. Thank you so much. Is it Magnus's birthday? Magnus, happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. That's what I got. Happy birthday. Everybody shout out to Magnus in the chat. Happy birthday. If you're on the replay, throw it in the comments. That's fabulous. I love celebrating birthdays. So if it's your guy's birthday, shout it out. Shout it out and let me know. I think celebrating the day you were born is a ton of fun. I am the worst at celebrating my own, but I love celebrating other people's birthdays. Coffee first. You made it though. Even if you're late, no worries. Linda Lou, how old was Tom Cruise when he joined? Was he 26 and above? Ooh, good question. Nancy, can you Google that quick? How old was Tom Cruise when he joined Scientology? I thought he was a little younger. 23, maybe? I thought he was a little younger, but let's get that information and then I'll pop in and share that. Let's see. Jersey Jan says, we know he turns them suppressive. Exactly. Can you imagine too, like, Say you're a Scientologist, right? And you're someone who potentially could be a mate for Tom Cruise, and you get connected up. You cannot tell me that a Scientologist who knows the history of his 3 previous ex-wives all becoming or being called or labeled suppressive people, that as a Scientologist, you're not gonna go, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, it's Tom Cruise. That's like a lot of financial security there, but ooh, I could end up a suppressive person. What is going on with that man's genitalia where it turns women into suppressive people in the eyes of Scientology? And how Scientology themselves doesn't recognize this and go, hey, dude, you need some type of, I don't know, correction, something, because you keep, choosing women who are suppressive in the eyes of Scientology. It's very odd. Uh, okay, so Tom Cruise was 23 when he joined Scientology, and John Travolta was 21, which is still pretty young because we know our brains are not fully formed by that time. Herbie makes a great point. Tom Cruise benefits from slave labor. He's not leaving anytime soon. Anna says, I think less that they have the dirt and more that he doesn't want to look the fool for being such a big promoter all these years. Anna, I do believe that is part of it too, because based on what I have seen and what I have heard, it would appear that Tom Cruise has quite the ego and button on being so important. So I think he would have a hard time with that. I agree with you. Nisa says he just won't. He said he sold his soul to Miscavige, and now they are buddies. That is true. That's really true. Yeah, Georgie Jan, that's right. New comedy routine. You know you're in a cult when. Nancy, if you see any of those, maybe you can star them for me. I would love to see your guys as you know you're in a cult when. Where's James Steele? Where's Power Lies to Paralyze? You guys have some of the best ones there. Oh, okay. So now let's go on here. Let's move on. We got to talk about some news out of the United Kingdom. We're going to look at an article, and thank you for the reminder, y'all. Hit that like button, hula on over to it. Just give it a little tap there. I'd appreciate it. Let's take a look at this here. Let's see. Oh, hey, there's Power Lies to Paralyze. Good to see you. Good to see you. Professor Furberger, Cruz has found himself in a pickle. He's poison to women. Just does. Just as yourself. Because I keep thinking about this, and I know I was going to move on from this, but I can't help. I try to put myself in his shoes. And if the last 3 marriages I had, they turned out to be suppressive people. Say I even believe that, I'd really be questioning myself. Where's his security check and reprogramming because he keeps doing this? Or could it be that they're not the suppressive? Maybe somebody else is in that equation. I don't know. It could be. It could be. Just Juliet, you know you're in a cult when Thursday at 2 is the new Friday at 5. Oh my gosh, that's fantastic. Keep them coming, you guys. Keep them coming. Oh, you're right. Arkansas Flamingo. Nazanin Boniati is suppressive too. She just dated him. She was a Scientologist, probably the last Scientologist to date him. And then they got Katie Holmes, turned her into a Scientologist. Then she turned out to be suppressive. You're right. So really, we're talking 4. We're talking 4. I don't think they've said Penelope Cruz is a suppressive, but Nazanin, 100% Scientology has labeled her as a suppressive person. Asen says poison stick. Yep, Linda Lou, good point. Brain continues to grow until age 25. Oh my gosh. You know you're in a you're in a cult when you think Tom Cruise jumping off of Oprah's couch is pure theta. Asen says, joined a cult for a woman, stayed for his true love, Davy. You know you're in a cult if you have to get up, wash your body, dress, clean, eat, and get to work in the space of 60 seconds. That's very true too. Magnus, that's what I was saying. I think Tom Cruise has a suppressive member. Apparently something about it, creates a suppressive situation in women. Keep them coming. You know you're in a cult if. Keep them coming. I might go make a separate video just using all of them. Keep them coming, you guys. All right, now I want to move over and talk about this list out of the UK. Apostate Alex shared on his blog this list of the 50 top Scientology donors in the United Kingdom who are contributing to Scientology's ideal organization thingamajig, where they get their members to pay all this money to renovate buildings that sit empty and nobody is really at. So yeah, there's that. That's what they're doing. So this list comes out. I'm going to link it down below so you can read the article as well that goes with it. Talks about how our sources tell us Manchester is expected to be the next UK ideal organization to open. And last year, we reported that Scientology had submitted fresh plans to Trafford Council for the works. That is interesting. So you go down these lists. There were some notable names, mainly, of course, the Gaiman family. Now, this is not Neil Gaiman. This is his family, though. The Gaiman and Calcioli family. So Calcioli, if I'm saying that right, that's Neil Gaiman's sister's married name. But they're on there. Stephen Ridley, or as I like to say, Stephen Ridley. After our friend over at Guitar Stuff Studio, he came on, we did a video, and he's done some content too about Stephen Ridley, who is a Scientologist who has this piano school where he teaches online that you can learn piano by pianoing 3 minutes a day or some kind of crazy thing like that. And what else comes out and has been spreading across the internet and the YouTubes like wildfire, that the Stephen Ridley Academy is used to recruit for what? Scientology. Yes. People came forward with the receipts, parents sharing emails and things showing that they were trying to get, and what was being reported was it was primarily younger girls to join Scientology. One of the main recruiters for Scientology in the UK also works for Stephen Ridley and his organization. So every time we turned around, it was like, okay, this is being called out. It does seem to be the case. And when you're in Scientology, there is so much pressure to promote Scientology, to bring new people into Scientology, to be a fly on the wall these days, because I just feel like even Scientologists who are staying in Scientology for whatever reasons they have are not going to be going out and, spreading the word about Scientology in the way that they used to. How can you? How can you? I just don't think that you can. But they are. So what do I know? Paralyzed to Paralyzed says, you're in a cult when you're reading the list of Manchester list, hoping not to see anyone that could be a covert handler for the cult. That's right. I'm going to link that down below so you guys can go look at the whole list there. Also share some upcoming ideal organization events. There's one on Saturday the 25th called Over the Ramparts event. Scientology really loves their themes. Have you guys noticed that? They've got this other event here, Manchester Ideal Org event, Footloose, with awards, dinner, and Footloose competition. I wonder what a Footloose competition is. That one already happened on January 4th, but there's this one coming up. But they like their nights, and they're very much like, a lot of their themes are kind of Star Wars, Lord of the Rings kind of things, and which would be fine if they weren't using it to promote a cult and try and get people to pay money to Scientology. That would, it would almost be, yeah. And how do they not get in trouble for that too? Because Scientology has used in the past what really looks like some copyrighted trademark stuff in their promotions. Y'all remember that one video we saw when they were at that college? Where was it? Ohio or someplace, using the mascot of the college to hand out propaganda about Dianetics. Oh, that blew my mind. It still blows my mind. Magnus says, you know you're in a cult when your job is to clean toilets with a toothbrush. Well said. That's a good one. Stasha says, you might be in a cult when people blame you for abuse from others. Amen, sister. Amen. Let's see here. Just Julia, you know you're in a cult when holding the cans doesn't mean comparing items in the supermarket aisle. That's a good one. Marcy says, you know you're in a cult when you work 150 hours for $50 or less. That would be a giveaway. Jersey Jan, you know you're in a cult when you have to walk the plank. Yeah, the overboarding in Scientology, throwing people into a lake, throwing them overboard. I mean, it's crazy. Asen says they do theme nights as if Scientologists have the time to watch those movies. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Antics of a Mama Squirrel, Footloose. Yeah, that will bring in a younger crowd. I know Footloose is like my generation. You remember? Who did the Footloose dance when that movie came out? We all did it in our living rooms. Oh my God, that's wearing me out. All right, let's move on here. You guys keep your comments coming about that. Now, let's talk about a video I did with my sister Lana. And as you know, my sister loves to drop bombs on me that I had not heard while we're doing a live stream. Yesterday was no different. But the piece that I want to show you of the chat that I had with her, I'm going to link it down below. You can find it on my channel. It's called How I Escaped the Cult of Scientology, where Lana shares some information about how Scientology overtook the Cult Awareness Network. Many of you know that story or you're familiar because Cult Awareness Network was doing just that, raising awareness about cults. Who had the biggest problem with that? Yes, Scientology. So they infiltrated the organization. They created a bunch of problems, came up with all these lawsuits. They do what they do to try to bankrupt them, and they did. And then the Cult Awareness Network was bought by a Scientologist. And who then was answering the phone? Scientologist. When you call the Cult Awareness Network. Lana had some insight on that because our mother, when she was alive, and a Scientologist, helped on that project. She went to a few Cult Awareness Network conventions. What they were trying to do is get people to turn them away and then bring discrimination suits against them for not being allowed in these Cult Awareness Network events. Not our mother's proudest moment, but you know, she was a hardcore Scientologist who believed that this organization was harming an organization that helps. Of course, my mom left Scientology 2 years before she passed and came to see it all incredibly different. But let's take a look at this clip from the chat I did with my sister where she is chatting about that.
Each individual Scientologist in your OT committee all over the world and I mean all over United States would put in their applications to be members of the Cult Awareness Network. Of course, they get denied because they're a cult.
Yeah.
And then they all sued individually the Cult Awareness Network for discrimination. That's how they got the Cult Awareness Network to bankrupt.
Exactly. They tried to pretend like they wanted to be part of it, but the Cult Awareness Network recognized that this was Scientologists and what they were doing, and then they turned around and sued them for discrimination.
Yep. And so they bought a Scientologist, got the Cult Awareness Network, you know, an 800 number you can call to find out about any kind of cult.
Now, I never found out what happened because the Scientologist who bought the Cult Awareness Network ended up, I don't think she's in Scientology anymore. I don't know that, I'm not aware that, well, I feel like if she publicly left, I'd be aware of it. I don't think that was the case, but I remember when I was in Scientology, understanding that she was like gone, stepping away, and she was operating Thetan level 8 as well. What's so fun about that story too is when my mom was at the Cult Awareness Network convention, one of the speakers was Tori Chrisman, Tori Magoo 44. So while Tori was up there speaking about Scientology and cult, my mom was a Scientology infiltrating, sitting in the audience. I got to remember to tell Tori that story. I don't think I've ever talked to her about that. Does it matter to you? Not to me. Mimi Rogers is no longer a Scientologist, so you can still love Bosch. It's totally fine. But you'll probably see, I know you're catching up there. T, so good to see you. Everyone just popped up while waiting for little mate to fall asleep. I know it's really late for you off in Australia. Asen says, you know you're in a cult when walking the plank doesn't mean you're cosplaying Pirates of the Caribbean. It's a good one. Oh my goodness. Stasia, you know you're in a cult when the cult leader is living a life outside of cult expected behavior. Exactly. Oh, so the cult leader gets to drink scotch, David Miscavige. You know, if we're going to talk crap about him, we got to wake up Osa. It's only fair. It's only fair. It's only fair. David Miscavige's Wake Up Your People. Hey, Office of Special Affairs, how you doing? It is Aloha Friday. Aloha Friday. Welcome, welcome. I should have woken you up early because we were talking mad smack about, you know, your dear leader and all that, but you can catch up. And if you just got here on the replay, you can go back to the beginning. And also, I thought it would be good for the Office of Special Affairs to hear some of this. You might be in a cult kind of a thing. But Stasia, that's a great one because that is a big thing. David Miscavige and his super expensive suits, his motorcycles, where money was taken from Sea Org members, like for his birthday. These people are getting $47 a week if you're lucky. And someone stands there with their hand out for them to give what little they have for gifts for Scientology's leader, David Miscavige. Same man who would have Sea Org members salute his dog. Yes, incredibly culty. Hey, ex-witness Vernon, how you doing? Oh, by the way, Vernon sat on everybody, I guess. I'm not just going to tell this one guy this. But I think you'll find this interesting. On Saturday, which is tomorrow, I'm going to sit down and do an interview with Alt Worldly. Y'all remember the other day, I think it was yesterday, I shared one of his videos talking about the Jehovah's Witnesses and such similarities to Scientology. So I thought, how fun would it be to bring on another content creator who speaks out about the Jehovah's Witnesses, and we go head to head. I will bring my Scientology crazy. He will bring his JW crazy, and we are going to lay it all out and compare cults. I think it's going to be fun. We're doing that Saturday. It's going to be a live stream on my channel. I'm just looking up the time quick. It's going to be at 4 p.m. Central Time. 4 p.m. Central Time. We're going to do that. And if you guys cannot catch it live tomorrow, please catch it on the replay because I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I know I am really looking forward to hearing what he has to say and comparing notes. And I think it's going to be great. Asen says, you know you're in a cult when you have to pretend your uniform is amazing and ignore that it's cheap polyester from Temu. Oh, girl, that's a good one. God, I hated the uniforms. That tie thing that we had to wear. It was like being strangled all of the time. I hated it. It looked so bad. Did not like it at all. Thank you, Cubana Chica. Another amazing interview with Lana. Check out the video, you guys. That girl just drops gems all over the place. Robot Rabbit, Scientology has done less public propaganda in my country. I'm hoping they're about to give up. If it's a thing, Mormons did. That's interesting that Mormons gave up in your country. Yeah, there's something to be said for that. I don't think they will. They are diehard. They are going to keep going. They are persistent, if nothing else. They're kind of like roaches. Sometimes I think that, you know, the apocalypse could happen. And well, we know Scientology is going to still be standing to a degree because they've built giant vaults into mountains where they put L. Ron Hubbard's materials onto metal plates and have crank record things and e-meters that maybe you crank and it's all stored away in case of the apocalypse. So that's why I say Scientology is kind of like roaches, that they may still be around. The technology will. We'll see. We'll see how good those vaults work. But then would we all really know? And my question is always, if there's the apocalypse, who's going to open the vaults? Because what I understand is they are like really locked up and not a lot of people know how to open them. So how would you actually get it open? I don't know. I don't have an answer for that. I've never been able to get someone to give me an answer to that. If you know an answer to that, let me know. Natalie at lifeafteracult.com. Mayor's girl, you might be in a cult when someone screams at you. You're still in a cult, Tammy. My favorite of all time, one of my favorite protester quotes from Rika in Portland when she calls out that Tammy girl. You're still in a cult, Tammy. Oh, I love it. Just Julia, you know you're in a cult. Wait, you know you're in a cult if you don't salute your boss's dog or you get beaten. Yeah, that would be a real telltale sign there. All right, I'm going to bring up, keep those coming. Go check out Lana's interview. I want to bring something else to your attention here. I'm going to link it down below. Not going to read the whole article, just a little bit of added information on Neil Gaiman, who currently has very horrific allegations being made against him. We've been talking about this story multiple times. I'm going to link this down below because this article really kind of gets into his upbringing in Scientology. The boy who'd sell stories grew up watching his father sell Scientology. David Gaiman was the church's chief spokesman in England, defending L. Ron Hubbard while kids got thrown in chain lockers on Hubbard's ships. The elder Gaiman put his son on BBC TV in '68, age 7, to prove Scientology wasn't hurting children. When you make a release, you feel absolutely great, young Neil told the cameras. A release is like, you know, like you're like very happy, or you reach the level of one of these Scientology grades, as they're called. But he was held up as the example of what Scientology can do for children, giving him the type of auditing not meant, I mean, definitely should not be being given to children. And he did. And I'm just saying, I don't know. How did that work out for you, Scientology? How did that work out? Doesn't seem to be working out so good. But the article is interesting because of the ties to his family through Scientology and gets more into the history of his father. These are all things Scientology does not want you to know. And there's not a Neil Gaiman article out right now that's not also bringing to the forefront Scientology, the abuses, what's done to children, the auditing, the pressure, the cultiness, all of it. All of it, all of it, all of it. Hey, Farrell Cheryl, good morning and aloha to you. I'm glad you're here. Katie Fulton says, you might be in a cult when you're made to call a co-member who is a young lady, sir. Oh, that was something, honestly, you guys, I never got used to it when I was in the Sea organization and had to call 12-year-old sir because they were Commodore's messengers. Never got used to it. Never got used to it. Jolie says, you know you're in a cult when you see a natural disaster as a way to recruit. Exactly. Where your first thing is to let's grab the cameras. Oh, and let's get the supplies too. But does everybody have a camera? Do we all have cameras? Everybody get their little briefing sheet? When you see a camera, this is how the meeting goes. This is how we imagine it. The meeting of volunteer ministers and the people who run them in Scientology. Gather around, everybody. We're about to go out. As you all know, there have been these tragic fires, but don't worry. Scientology hasn't been touched because, you know, we're good like that. We can control the weather and fire and all things due to our operating faith and powers. But here's the real deal here. When you guys see a camera, you need to do something very specific. I don't care if you got to push a baby out of the way. You get your butt in front of that camera and you prominently display your volunteer minister's shirt. If your logo's on the front, stand front. If it's on the back, stand back. But whatever it takes. Push the elderly out of the way. Walk over boxes. Just get yourself on that camera. All right, everybody ready? All right. LRH, break. That's how I imagine these meetings go in my head. And I did actually imagine that earlier today. I was thinking about what would that be like? What goes on? Oh, Chuck Ross. You know you're in a cult when all the other members think the whole rest of the world is a cult. Yes, good one. Good one. Yep. That is a really good one. And oh my gosh, that is so true. It's so true too. Lupita, you know you're in a cult if you are expected to donate your month's salary for his birthday. Yes. All right, we're going to look at something. Keep them coming. Keep them coming. You know you're in a cult if I want to see it. And again, if you're on the replay, jump in those comments. This is for you to have fun as well. I'm going to go through and read those. Now, let's take a look at some Church of Satire-tology, who, speaking of laughs on a Friday, really brought it. We're going to look at their video they just put out inside Scientology's ideal org. Big claims, no crowds. So we got a clip to look at. I'm going to link it down below because you should see the whole thing is a laugh and a half. Check this out.
This is your look inside the Church of Scientology. Viewer discretion advised.
Welcome to the Ideal Org on L. Ron Hubbard Way, the hub of spiritual advancement and carefully staged promotional footage. What you're about to see is not what it looks like on a normal day. We asked staff, parishioners, and even people walking by to come inside so it would look, well, ideal. This is our reception area where visitors are greeted with a smile, or, they would be if we had more visitors. On filming day, we asked every available person to stand in the lobby and look busy.
That is true. That is true. They totally do that when they're filming their propaganda. They bring in whatever Scientologists, people they can find to stage that it looks busy. But did y'all know that former Sea Org members are not allowed to be in these shots? Once in a while, you'll catch one, like if they become a celebrity, like Leah Remini. But there's policy that former Sea Org members are degraded beings and are not supposed to be in any of these shots. True story.
Was the most activity we've seen here in weeks. I see a lot of this, where they put their hands over their eyes and look inside the window, and they're like, what is this? And then it hits them, oh no, it's Scientology. That's when they suddenly remember a very important appointment they have somewhere else.
This is
Church of Satire-tology for the win there. Go check out their channel if you're not already subscribed. Lots of fun content there, calling out Scientology, but doing it in a way that brings some humor. Oh my gosh, it is so funny. You got to watch the whole video. I wish I could almost play the whole thing now, but I'd rather it be watched on Church of Satire-tology's video or channel because then they get the watch time and stuff. So go over there and watch the whole thing. It's so funny. Okay, where am I at? Let's now go over, check this out. Sometimes people like to live stream and protest Scientology. They've done a lot of chalk tech. I want to preface this by saying, I'm not saying that this is legal or allowed in your area. I just thought people sent me this short and I thought, wow, that's actually a cool idea. But you always have to check in your area where you live in your country on the laws when it comes to protesting and live streaming outside. So having said that, look at this, you guys. To me, this is a game changer. Next level chalk tech, not chalk. Check it out.
These guys found a clever loophole for advertising in places where hanging posters is illegal. Instead of breaking the rules, they use a technique called reverse graffiti. With high-pressure water and a stencil, they wash dirt off the ground to reveal a print. And the best part, it's tough to remove, and since it's just cleaning, there's no way to get fined. These guys found a clever loophole for advertising in places where
How cool is that? Which makes me wonder, maybe this is why Scientology's always power washing their sidewalks because they know this might happen. They're being prevented. Oh, you wanna put stuff about L. Ron Hubbard in our dirt? Well, we're gonna make sure there's no dirt for you to power wash. They must have seen the same video. I don't know, because they sure do act like it. They really do. They really do. I'm going to catch up on you might be in a cult in just a minute. So keep them coming. We're putting them all in the starred there. All right, let's take a look at a video from MD Media 18, who was out there doing some static filming so we could see. We looked at video from MD Media 18 yesterday, but it gets all blurry because, allegedly Scientology is using cell phone blockers. But here with this video, we can see clear footage of Scientology's volunteer ministers at Los Angeles Scientology, all set up. They got this big sign. It's their Scientology donation center for the LA fires. And there's something we've been noticing. Mainly, Nobody seems to be there picking up supplies. Meanwhile, you go to the Santa Anita donation center and it's like non-stop people volunteering, picking up supplies, organizing supplies, helping people. It is so busy. So contrast that when you think about that to what MD Media is sharing with us here. I mean, they're organizing the donations, but like it doesn't really seem like people are taking advantage. I mean, we know who's taking advantage. That's Scientology taking advantage of the situation. But you don't see all the tons of people there as you do at the other donation center. Well, there's somebody. That person might be trying to pick up some stuff and get help. So I guess that there's nobody is maybe not true. Look how messy too. Come on, shame, Scientology. Organization is supposed to be something you're really good at. So as you can clearly see, nothing is really changing. Nobody's showing up. So as I said before, and I will say it again, I think that what Scientology should do, if you really want to help the community, take the supplies that you've collected, take the donations that you've collected, take it to a Red Cross or another distribution site where people in the community are willing to come and show up to get that help. People aren't showing up there because they are afraid. They know that you're a human trafficking cult. So if you want to combat that, maybe not make yourselves, not have such, main character syndrome about the whole thing, and just go ahead and send it over where people can actually use that, right? Just Julia, read the room, Scientology. People know what you're up to. Absolutely. That is so true. Anna, don't they know how to fold clothing? Yeah, you would think so. You would think so. Sharona says someone needs to spread word to the nearby houseless population so at least someone can take advantage of what they stole. Yes. Now, I will say they didn't steal everything. They did take some things from other distribution centers. And then, with things that they're collecting, not everything, but reports have shown that they did take a bunch of stuff. So you're right about that. Just not everything. All right. Let's see now. We're going to look at something here. I'm so distracted and laughing about you guys' cult comments here. I just it's so hilarious. Okay, we just got to read a couple more, then I'll get on to my next video. Kathy Scogans, you're in a cult when you get 2 hours of sleep and eat rice and beans. Amber Vanessa, you're in a cult when you have 100 different ways to make rice and beans taste good. Oh, that's true. And when people were on rice and beans in the Sea Org, you're not allowed. They're technically not allowed to use salt, pepper, hot sauce, any of that. When I was a steward in the galley, when I worked in the galley serving the meals, I remember people who would come through who were on rice and beans, and I felt so horrible. Like no butter, nothing. I would just leave the stuff up and look the other way. Like I am not here. I am not here to police people eating rice and beans to make sure they don't use condiments. I'm just not down with that. Magnus says, you're in a cult when as a volunteer, you have to work 100 hours a week for almost no pay. Natasha says, you're in a cult when they first love bomb you and then turn against you and cover abuse up. And then they ask you, what did you do to pull this in? Exactly. It's never Scientology pulling it in. It's never their fault. Selena says, you're in a cult when you draw the blinds when First Amendment auditors come. That would be a good telltale as well. Asen says, you're in a cult when you have to wash the sidewalk while a fire is raging around you. Oh, Asen, good one. Good call out. Good call out. All right, keep them coming. We will go through more of those. But I want to pop over and share this story with you about Pam Bondi. Pam Bondi is currently going through confirmation hearing for the United States Attorney General position. This is her there. But here's the part that, of course, has my interest. Pam Bondi has largely kept her personal beliefs private throughout her life. While it's unclear whether she's Catholic, Pam Bondi does have connections to the controversial Church of Scientology. During her tenure as Florida's first female attorney general, Pam accepted plenty of campaign donations from Scientologists and attended several fundraisers hosted by prominent and wealthy members of the church. In fact, the Tampa Bay Times reported that at a 2014 fundraiser for her re-election campaign in Clearwater, Florida, it was organized by 6 prominent Scientologists. Pam's campaign spokeswoman, Christina Johnson, confirmed that the Republican was aware of the involvement in the event. According to Christina, Pam first engaged with Scientologists in 2010 when she and other elected officials toured some of the church's facilities in Clearwater. During the visit, Pam addressed a group of Scientologists about human trafficking and anti-drug efforts. As for the 2014 fundraiser, Christina explained that it was simply a case of like-minded folks sharing the same goals, including the protection of children from drugs and human trafficking. Pam's connection to Scientology have sparked considerable controversy, but she has defended them by saying the church shares her goal of combating human trafficking. Okay, I just no. It gets really frustrating when people are elected officials and have access and opportunity to learn more about Scientology, like explore. Why do you think they are attacked and exposed in the media so much? Well, because they are a cult and they are doing cult shenanigans. So I just hope that she and other elected officials really do some serious homework and learn more about Scientology beyond what Scientology themselves are just telling you, because there's just more to it than that. And hearing her say, they share my goal of combating human trafficking. Really? I don't know. I just think some people might have something to say about that, like literally Serge, Miriam Francis, Lara FM, and on and on and on. Those people might have a different point of view. Anybody trafficked into Scientology. My sister trafficked into the Sea Organization at 14, sent to the international base where no one in her family knew where she was, nor could we contact her at 14. So I don't know. I just feel like the information is out there and not availing yourself of it seems like being a little irresponsible there. All right, I'm going to read a couple more of these before I do my next thing here. Let's see. Jersey Jan says, you know you're in a cult when you think you have special powers after completing operating Thetan level 8, but you're flat broken in debt. Yeah, and have psychological issues too. It's such a mind bender. It truly is. It truly is. Justine, you know you're in a cult when a member is so stressed they throw a fax machine at you. Yeah. And that's the story having to do with Relatable Reese and Dan out in Kansas City. Magnus, you know you're in a cult when you cannot confront and shatter, only conform and scatter. Oh, I love that. That's a great way of putting it. Just a Northern girl, you know you're in a cult when you're sharing a room equipped with bunk beds and 7 other bunk mates. Yes, indeed. Sharona, you know you're in a cult when someone hands you a yellow shirt and you magically become a minister. Exactly. I'm a minister now. Yeah, that's such a fantastic point. Jersey Jan, you know you're in a cult when you're called a joker and degrader and get thrown in the rehabilitation project force. Exactly. Conform and scatter. I love that one so much. That's a good one. All right, let's see here. Oh, okay. We got to talk about this movie. And then we're going to get into some Hawaii stuff. I did not see this movie when it came out, but I am fascinated by I want to see this. I'm going to watch it this weekend. And I thought, if you guys like this kind of thing, it's called The Other Lamb, that you could watch it too, and we could talk about it. It's a coming of age horror movie which exposes the darkest corner of cults. I do not believe I have seen this, and I think it's on AMC. But what's interesting is the way this is how they're describing it, as it shows how so many people are influenced into accepting this kind of cruelty. And in its finale, the often disturbing lengths they're pushed to in order to escape. So it's called The Other Lamb. I'm going to link this article down below so you guys can see it, but I want to watch it. I read that whole thing and I'm like, oh my God, take my money. What streaming service is it on? It's on AMC. So I'm going to go find it, and it is on my list for this weekend because I just feel like it screams cult, of course. But there's things in it. Sometimes movies will be done about cults and they're not, always as relatable. But this one, from what I've read about it, it's interesting the ways it brings kind of like current issues about cults, but telling them through this story. I think it's fascinating. I don't know if any of you saw it. Tell me if you did. The Other Lamb. That's what it's called. The Other Lamb. I'm seeing if anybody saw it here. And I'm trying to catch up on you might be in a coat. Oh, okay, James Steele, you saw it. I love this film. Okay, good. I'm going to watch it. Yeah, Marcy's not seen it. Yeah, I'm going to watch it. I think it sounds really interesting and major correlations in ways with Scientology. Mayor's Girl, you might be in a cult where there's a fake Navy. Mena says, you're in a cult when you're not allowed to ask questions. No one. You're in a cult when you get punished for an electronics malfunction. Exactly. And I know what you're talking about. Exactly. Powerlized to paralyzed. Oh, we read that one. That's a good one. Read that one too. Okay, keep them coming. Let's see here. Where am I? Okay, let's go through these signs if you're in a cult, because I think it's always good to brush up on this. You know what I'm saying? Because cults are getting very insidious in the ways that they're recruiting. Look at cults like the TikTok dance cult. You wouldn't think that doing TikTok dances and stuff could get you involved in a cult, but it could, and it did. Those of you familiar with that story. So I thought, it is good once in a while to go through and look at these signs again. And some of them might be new to you guys. So tell me your thoughts. I'm going to link this down below. Recognizing the signs of a cult. Being able to recognize the signs of a cult is crucial. Warning signs include undue influence. Well, what is undue influence? The group exerts excessive control over members' lives, dictating personal choices, relationships, and finances. Isn't that interesting? Because it really goes to show you this is recognizing the signs of a cult. Because you can have a group that's exerting excessive control over its members, their lives, trying to tell them who they can have relationships with, trying to tell them what their personal choices should be, trying to tell them financially what they need to do. Isolation is another one. Members are encouraged or forced to cut ties with family and friends. This is something very common in Scientology through Scientology's harmful practice of disconnection. And it is the group. And this is the thing here that I want to point out with this. A lot of this, even though it's Scientology doctrine or some other cult's doctrine, it is the group. It is a group of people who are doing this to each other. And if you're someone that has done these things or tried to other people, you might want to look at it as it pertains to, you might be in a cult. These are the signs of a cult, because dictating people's personal lives, relationships, and finances, that's undue influence when a group exerts excessive control. Isolation, right? Black and white thinking. The group promotes a simplistic worldview, often positioning itself as good and the outside world as evil. That black and white thinking is a huge problem in Scientology, not just Scientology. This goes beyond, let's be honest. But it is definitely one of the ways that you might be able to recognize and go, okay, maybe I'm not in a cult, but why is a group of people trying to dictate and control me and who I have relationships with or how I spend my money? These are characteristics of a cult, and it's what undue influences, isolation, black and white thinking, and then there are fear tactics. The use of fear to control members, such as the threat of eternal damnation, shunning, or physical harm. Gets into Scientology disconnection, right? Shunning. But anytime, just like the Jehovah's Witnesses practice shunning as well, when you're like, well, I'm not, like, no, because you're making these choices over here to not follow Scientology or not follow what my cult I'm in is telling me I should be thinking, feeling, and doing, then you're cut off. That's punishment. I'm going to punish you for not joining me in how I feel you should feel. I'm going to punish you because you're not thinking the way I think you should think, the way this group thinks that you should think. That is how people go down this slippery slope in Scientology, in huge part because it's the group that's doing it. I think often when we talk about Scientology, people think about specific people, and there's truth in that. But one thing I think we don't talk enough about is this group mob mentality that happens within cults and how they want to then control people's finances, how they think, what they do. That is a slippery slope and how many people end up getting into Scientology because it comes across as advice. You know what? You're better off not hanging out with those people. Those people are out ethics. They're off purpose, as it's said in Scientology. You shouldn't be hanging out with them. I think you should be hanging out with these people. That's cult mentality. That is a group think. That is a group trying to control an individual just because they're not doing or living their life how you think they should. Very slippery slope in Scientology. I've seen a lot of people be recruited as adults with these type of tactics. No room for questions. Critical thinking or dissent is discouraged, and members must conform to the group's belief without question. I'm going to link this whole thing down below. But again, because the group says we need to do and follow this without question, like it is in Scientology, that's groupthink. That is a cult mentality. People should be able to be free to make their own decisions, to have their own choices, to communicate with who they choose to communicate with or not. This is one of the big ways people are trapped in Scientology is they become isolated. You need to think like us. It becomes this real Borg mentality. And the minute you don't agree and you question and you say, nah, I actually don't agree with that, or I'm going to do my own thing over here, then comes the punishment. And this is something that the group does. We see this when people leave Scientology on Facebook and social media. Scientologists, there are ones that are assigned, they volunteer to go around telling people, hey, you need to not be talking to this person because they're not in good standing with Scientology anymore. Okay, so because Scientology decides that a person is not worthy of my communication, it's now Scientology gets to dictate and tell me, or anyone, because anyone decides that this person shouldn't be communicated with, that the group is making threats and putting pressure on people to conform to what the group has decided is the best way to do it. That is a trap that people get into with Scientology and with other cults. And sometimes when you come out of a cult, you come out of a high control group, it can take time to work through and get to the understanding of recognizing it is not your job to control anyone. It is not your right to control anyone. It is not your place to put pressure on or to threaten people so they conform and behave in ways that you decided was best for them. This is how cults recruit. And they do the love bombing in the beginning, as we know, and the control comes in slowly. And the next thing you know, Scientology is controlling every aspect of your life. I'm only going to watch movies that Scientology says is okay. I'm going to read books that Scientology or this cult says is okay. I'm only going to talk to people that my cult tells me I can talk to. I'm going to not talk to people that my cult tells me not to talk to. It's such a slippery slope, and often why young people can fall victim to, I mean, anybody can, to these cults because they want to belong. It is a natural thing for humans. But when you bring a group together and you turn that group into some type of machine of agree with us, see things our way, or we're going to attack you, that's a cult. And that is what Scientology does to hold on to their members. And I think you can see this behavior in almost every cult that you look at. So be on the lookout, keep an eye out for that. Now I want to show you a clip. I did a video yesterday. I don't know if you guys saw it. It was a pre-recorded video on how I got my daughter out of a cult. And if you have not seen it, I would really like it if you would go ahead and take a look at it. I'm going to show you a clip, link it down below. You can find it on my channel under videos because it was pre-recorded. And what I want to do is do more of these shorter videos explaining basic concepts about Scientology or a story from my experience, so that in 20 to 30 minutes, someone can look at that one thing and have a better understanding of why Scientology is a cult and different aspects of my story where they can digest it in smaller amounts as well. So keep an eye out for that. I'm going to keep doing those. Here is the most recent one, or the first one that I did. Scientology practices something called disconnection. If you leave Scientology, you get cut off from your friends, from your family. It's similar to the shunning that the Jehovah's Witnesses do. And for a lot of people, they just decide, I don't want to lose my family over this. And they continue to suffer quietly in Scientology. So once I knew that my mom was going to be on board, that was huge for me, huge for me. And I had a similar conversation with my husband at the time. I was learning the truth about Scientology by going online and reading reports of survivors, whistleblowers, stories they were sharing. Some of this I heard or experienced myself, but a lot of it I didn't know. Because when you're in Scientology, you're not allowed to read or watch anything that is not supporting the narrative in Scientology. Nothing that calls out or exposes the abuses in Scientology. I'm looking for my glasses. If anybody knows where I might have put those, that's where I'm wearing different ones today. But please check it out, you guys. My hope is that by doing these additional videos, that it's a great, easy way. I'm going to make a playlist where people can come and learn about not just more very short tidbits about my story, but about why Scientology is a cult, but my story, that of my family. So I hope you guys tune in for that. And thank you so much for your encouragement too on that. I really appreciate it. I'm going to read more of these. You know, you're in a cult, but I want to make sure that I do share my stuff from Hawaii that I promised you at the beginning of this video. It is Aloha Friday, and on Aloha Friday, I thought it would be fun. A lot of you have asked to share more about Hawaii and my culture, and I grabbed a few videos. You know, I've been home multiple times over the last couple of years, and unfortunately, I go home. I've been going home for funerals, for scattering Tony's ashes, when my grandma died, when my dad died. It's really been, we've lost a lot of people in my family in the last couple of years, which is why I wanted to get this tattoo, a hui ho, which means until we meet again. And so I've been going through a lot of my videos because I wanted to put something together for my family as well as myself. So this is just raw images, but I wanted to share a couple highlights with you guys and a little bit of my culture. When my father died in Hawaii and my sisters and I were there, we were on the Big Island and at my grandma's house, which is also where my dad lived when he was alive. And when my grandma was alive, we did a whole ceremony with one of my aunties with a Hawaiian blessing. And I thought it'd be fun to show you guys a little peek at that, where this is when Lana went up and was getting her blessing. So check it out. My auntie, we did like the traditional service, what would be traditional with the Hawaiians for my dad, including when we got there, we had to stay in a room. We weren't allowed to go out. It was just part of the custom until a certain point. And it really was beautiful. And I think my dad would have absolutely loved it. I don't think, again, I've got my plan is to put all this together where you can kind of see the sequence of events, but wanted to share a little bit with you on that culture in Hawaii. And while I was going through these videos, I have been promising you guys for some time a My Tony Speedo picture or video, and I found one. Those of you that have been following my channel for a year or even more recently, you guys know I lost my partner it's been 7 months since he died. But on one of the last trips where I went to Hawaii with my Tony, we were on the Big Island. This was actually just a couple months, several weeks before he found out that he had 2 primary aggressive cancers. We didn't know he had cancer at this time, but he did. But check it out, because I've told you guys the stories about the Speedo and you know, I just, you got to see it, but I love this. It's just him rinsing his feet. This is in Hawaii on the Big Island. And he's carrying the tube for me, which was also so funny because I don't swim like I used to back in the day. And I love using a tube if I'm going snorkeling, especially at the Mauna Kea Resort, which is where we were. I love using the tube. It just makes me feel more confident because I'm not a massively strong swimmer. And he took it back and forth for me, but while wearing it. So walked through this massive resort while wearing the inner tube. Oh, it was just like classic Tony. I just loved it so much. And you guys have heard me talk about too, if you've ever been to Hawaii or a lot of other island places. And for those of you in Florida, the roaches. Cockroaches are a big thing in Hawaii, and they're huge and they fly. And in Hawaii, we call them cockroach. That's how we would say it, is cockroach, not just roaches or cockroaches, but cockroach. You got to get the cockroach, and everybody takes out a slipper. Well, in this video, I'm hanging out with my family. My dad's in it too. And there's one of these giant flying roaches, yet half of us immediately get out the slipper to get the cockroach. So this is kind of funny. Watch this. Going in. Look, everybody's ready to get the cockroach.
Don't you want a thicker
Grandpa's
shoe?
ready to get the cockroach. I'm ready to get the cockroach.
Mace, get the cockroach.
I don't know. Probably went in the wall.
Yeah.
It was funny to me because it was like, oh my gosh, that's so typical too. Hawaiian family have their people just immediately take the slipper off to go find that. Yeah, flip-flop. That's right. Most people, I think on the mainland, call them flip-flops. We always call them slippers. Go get your slipper. Flip-flops, slippers. Yes, all of the things. But they get some big ones, you guys. I'm talking like they can fly. They can fly. They're huge. They are huge. All right. I think I'm just going to show you one last one. You guys have heard me talk about my grandma. She passed away about 2 years ago. She lived on the Big Island. She was in the Guinness Book of World Records in 2017 for having the largest collection of novelty sunglasses. Her name was Betty Webster. And she was in the Guinness Book because it was her dream from the time she was in her 70s. I think she started this to have the world record for the largest collection of novelty sunglasses. She loved them. She would take 12 pairs anywhere she went and change them. So you look away and you turn around and she would have on a different pair of glasses. She was a hostess in multiple restaurants on the Big Island. And part of her charm was these sunglasses. And tourists who would meet her would find out about what she was trying to do. And they would go back to the mainland and send her sunglasses. We would all give them to her for Christmas, for holidays. And in 2017, when she was, late 80s, I think then she met that goal. I think she was 94 when she died, and that was a couple of years ago. It was just amazing. But we were hanging out with my grandma. She lived up the mountain in Waimea or Kamuela on the Big Island, and just caught her dog doing something hilarious. Check it out.
Llama has that brown bag on the chair for rubbish.
I think so. Just an island dog doing his thing, just hanging out, doing his thing. Nothing to see here. Those dogs were just connected to her. Jesse, hey there. Good morning and aloha, everyone. I can see why people join cults. People just want to be a part of something more important than themselves. Exactly. And for people who've been in a high control group or like even Scientology, other cults, it can be hard to let go of feeling like you get to, you know what I'm saying? Like you can still have that group mentality and threaten people if they don't behave in ways you want or spend money how you want them to spend their money, like Scientology does, going on social media and being like, you can't talk to Natalie anymore. She's no longer in good standing. Eric, she had... For the record, I want to say she had 1,500, but before she died, it was up to, I think, over 3,000. My sisters and I have some of them. Let's see. I'm going to just grab a couple more of these. You know you're in a cult. You know you were in a cult where you aren't allowed to look up information about your religion on the internet. Yes, that's a good one. Sorry about that. That is excellent. Robot Rabbit says, you know you're in a cult when walking on eggshells is your daily fitness exercise. So sad, but so true. Dr. MLS, you know you're in a cult when you think you can control hurricanes. Mayor's girl, you know you're in a cult when you flinch every time you see a picture of the founder because he's creepy AF. Oh yeah, totally. And side story, my grandson had this toy that you smash down and after a bit it pops up. I have spent days trying to let the thing pop up and not startle me. I still can't do it. I can get to the point now where you won't physically see me react, but on the inside, I'm totally reacting. And I know. It's a trauma response. I know that. Still working through it. But I'm like, wow, that's interesting. I just did it over and over again, like just to see. And then I was like, oh my God, I'm stressing myself out. I need to stop playing with this toy. You know you're in a cult when you have to squat to salute Miss Scavenge. Scroll SPTV. That's funny. Adam Carmona, you know you're in a cult when you get a doctorate after listening to 5 CDs. Oh my gosh, you're right. The Philadelphia doctorate course in Scientology, they consider to be a doctorate course just because they call it that. That's true. I think it's a little more than 5 CDs, but might be 5 things of it. It's huge. I didn't do it. I listened to some of the lectures, but you know who did it? My daughter Shelby. She did the whole thing. That was like a huge thing. Lupita, exactly. You know you're in a cult if you're expected to donate your month's salary for his birthday. Exactly. Oh my gosh. You guys are brilliant. Brilliant. I'm going to go in the comments too on the replay and check those out. So be sure to hit that like, hit that subscribe. Most of all, you guys, I hope you get out on this Aloha Friday and you guys all have an amazing cult-free day.